Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Since it's not a normally scheduled lecture day, I'm dressed up in my WPI hoodie, or as I like to call it, my tech company's CEO uniform. This is one of those jokes that you guys laugh at.
Ha ha ha.
Right, perfect.
Ha.
Very nice.
All right, and it is the WPI ski team. This was a fundraiser. Did you guys know that I skied on the WPI ski team? Nobody knew that? Nobody knew that bit of lore about your professor? You didn't find it when you Googled me before you took the class? So did anybody Google me before they took the class?
No.
No? Well, you can't answer for everybody, can you? Okay.
Well, there's no yeses so far, so.
Yeah, I'm looking for that button to find out if anybody said yes. Nobody said yes. Did anybody look at ratemyprofessor.com? You're smirking. So who looked at ratemyprofessor.com? I got one yes. Two yeses. So somebody that said yes, let me see who said yes. So Madeline, you said you looked at ratemyprofessor.com. What do you remember from it?
I remember that you had pretty good reviews. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken it.
Oh, I had pretty good reviews. The last time I looked at it was several years ago. And what I remember was one comment from a student that I decided to take that comment as a compliment and then not to look at Rate My Professor again. And it was that Professor Bergstrom was spastic. I think those were the exact words. And I figured that was a compliment. My intent isn't spastic, and it's dynamic and energetic and trying to get you to be excited about the class. Anyway, let's switch over to screen sharing here. Today we want to just talk about this group assignment 2. Where's the button for screen sharing? Share the screen. We want to share the one that says this. Okay. Can you guys see the screen? Am I sharing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Outstanding. All right. And I'll just draw this up here. That's my 30-second delayed YouTube view of what's going on. And now I can see the screen. All right, perfect. All right, so group assignment 2. The intent of group assignment 2 is to create a a set of mathematical models, or a set of, it's not mathematical models, probably the wrong way to say it, a set of engineering models, so that if you ever have questions similar to the questions basically from quiz, I forget the number. What was the last quiz we did? What did we call that one? Week 3 quiz, maybe?
Midterm quiz.
Midterm quiz.
Week 4.
Yeah. Week 4,
Week 4.
midterm. Yeah, I can't remember which one is which. I think it's week 4 that we're talking about. So there was questions about, so if you change the rake angle from this to this, what is the uncut chip thickness, or what's the shear angle, things like that, right? And so maybe when you become an active working engineer, you're not going to get a question of, if the uncut chip thickness is this and the cut chip thickness is this, what's the shear angle? You may not, your boss probably will never put that question on your desk. I'm willing to bet that that's the case. But if you're researching, so if your job is to research these kind of things, then that's the kind of thing you're going to be asking often. But what we're doing with this group assignment 2 is we're developing these models in Excel to solve these kind of problems. We're using these problems as the example for how to practice making these kind of models. And so, and you'll find that if you have to very often solve a particular kind of question, it's very easy to program the computer to solve that question, and you put in some inputs and outputs, and it's actually really easy to do it using a product like Microsoft Excel. It's possible to do all these things in Google Slides or any of the other sort of spreadsheet style products. We're going to ask that you do it in Excel using the template that we provide you with, because that makes it easier for us to grade. And it just, if it's everything's similar, it makes it easier to do. And so what you're going to get as soon as I publish the assignment here is, let's see, where's the Excel file? All right. So you get this template. And there's an example of solving one of the problems. Let me enable. Oh, it's going to be hard to enable editing because the Zoom button keeps popping up when I move the mouse. There we go. Enable editing. And you're going to want to do that after you download the example of the template file. And so there's 10 questions. Question 1 labeled Q1, all the way through question 10 labeled Q10. So you guys can figure that out. So put your solution to question 1 on the sheet labeled Q1. Put your solution to question 2 on the sheet labeled Q2. I think that, yes, it's the same groups as last time, to answer the question on the chat. So I think it's pretty, that part's pretty intuitive, but you would be surprised if I don't say it and then people get points taken off because they didn't do it. They're going to complain to me that I didn't say they had to do it. So I have learned over the years that ask for all of the things you want, not just some of them. Don't assume that anybody knows what it is you want. Has anybody experienced that? Show me in the participants thing. Have you ever experienced that if you don't actually tell people what you want, you don't actually get the things you want when you want them? Anybody? Yeah, a few people. Okay. Yeah, so if you guys are what, somewhere between like 18 and 25 years old, if you've had that experience and you've recognized it now, then you're way better off than I am, because I was like 40 before I figured out that if I really wanted something, I had to tell people that was what I wanted. I used to think that people should see my facial expression when I looked at them and know what it was I was thinking, and then do that so that my facial expression would change. And I was definitely in my 40s when I realized that was sort of my inner 5-year-old calling out. I feel like 5 is a special age. It's when we realize that the world does not revolve around us and we don't like it. All right, so there's a series of questions. So let's look at the example question here. So for a given side edge cutting angle and for a given feed rate, we want to calculate the uncut chip thickness. You guys know how to do that, right? Without looking at the answer on the page here. All right, let's just say you didn't know how to do that. How would you go about figuring out how to do it? If you had a piece of paper and a pencil and a calculator, and somebody said, here's the side edge cutting angle, here's the feed rate, calculate the uncut chip thickness, what would you do? What would you do if you had never taken this class and you had to answer that question? It's your first day at work. No, it's even better. It's a job interview. Somebody, what would you do?
Probably would Google it.
All right, we would Google it. So let's try that. All right. calculate. What were we going to calculate? Feed rate? We knew, and what were we calculating? Uncut chip thickness? And we knew feed rate? I've never typed this search string into Google before. Let's see what happens. Sure. I spelled something wrong. All right. So what there is, oh my God, over 2 million results. Let's try the first one. Oh, Quora, you have to like sign in to get answers out of this one, right? Yeah. All right, so if Google failed you, what would you do? Let's say you've taken this class. I'm sure the answer was in Google. But let's say you've taken this class and you wanted to know how to do it. How would you do it?
Look up the old course material.
Look at the old course material. When did we talk about that ish? Was it week 4? It was from the week 4 quiz. So I get week 6 here. Where are we? Computer's really slow today. I think the internet is not loving us today. Go back. Oh, here's week 4. Energy, power, chip formation. This one looks pretty good. Let's look at the slides here. Yeah, okay. I'm having extremely slow internet today. Can you guys still hear me okay? It's not breaking up? I can see at least one person moving on their video, so at least I know that we're still connected. All right, so this slide here shows us our T1, that's our uncut chip thickness, and it shows us that it equals the feed times the cosine of the side edge cutting angle right here. And that's because, and so if the side edge cutting angle was 0, what's the cosine of 0?
Just 1.
And so 1 times the feed. So if the side edge cutting angle is 0, the feed equals the uncut chip thickness. If the side edge cutting angle is positive, then the feed equals, or the uncut chip thickness equals feed times cosine of beta of the uncut chip thickness. So what I want you to do when you solve these problems is to make a picture of the equation that solves the problem. And so I'm using Snagit right now, but you don't have to do that. Your computer probably has a snipping tool or something, but make a picture of it. Go to the Excel document, paste the picture. Really? I guess I didn't copy it. Oh, I didn't. I got to go back to the Snagit editor. And I got to right click and say copy. and paste there. And so that looks pretty much the same as the last one. So you get the equation for how you solved it. And then over here, so we've got our side edge cutting angle. So that's given, right? And our feed was given. And so what's the formula again? Cosine of the side edge cutting angle, or feed times cosine of the side edge cutting angle. So uncut chip thickness equals B14. Now, B14 is the feed, okay, times cosine of D13. And so I have D13. What I've done is I've converted degrees into radians. Now, that's because Excel, when it does trig functions, it wants radians. You can, so we could do the same equation if we said equals feed times radians. Man, the computer's slow today. And 45. We didn't give the same number.
You need to do cosine of the radians, don't you?
Oh, cosine, yeah. Sorry, my bad. See, that's how come it didn't give the same number. That gives the same number. Doing math in Excel is just as bad as doing math on the whiteboard in front of the class. You always make a mistake. And so I always like to pretend that I'm taking dictation when I do that, so that if I make a mistake, it's because someone in the class told me what to write on the board and I wrote what they said. All right, so that's the example problem. And so I'd want all of the solutions to be laid out like this. So there's a picture that shows the equation. The problem statement is written for you in all of them. And there's the picture that shows the solution. And the reason for this picture isn't because I want to know how to solve the problem. It's because when you go back to use this again, having the picture helps you recognize what it is that that you're going to solve. We got how many people online? 19 participants. Did the groups designate one person to come online from each group? Say yes if your group decided to do that. Nobody? Okay. There's about 20 groups and there's 19 people online, so I just thought that was kind of curious. All right. One group said no. All right, so let's just quickly look at the different questions that we have. So if we're given side edge cutting angle and feed rate, calculate uncut chip thickness. Who could do that now? Really? 2? You guys sleeping? 3? Who recognizes the fact that it is the example problem? Could more people do it now? Good. All right. So question 2. Given uncut chip thickness and rake angle, calculate the shear angle. Who thinks they can figure that one out? So if you had the uncut chip thickness and the chip thickness, and you need to calculate the shear angle, do you think you could figure it out? So I happen to know that it's the next slide. But that's because I've been giving this same presentation or a version of this presentation for, I don't know, 2-3 times a year for 14 years. So I happen to know that it's on the next slide. You may not remember that. We have actually created for you, and I'll make sure that this is linked to in the assignment, ME1800 ME1800 equations. So I've gone through all of the slides from the class, and I've tried to find the relevant equations, the math that we talked about in the class, to give you a reference document to refer back to. It'll probably help with solving the problems on group assignment 2. As soon as the internet wakes up, my daughter's also on a Zoom right now, so that may be slowing us down. Wow. It's pretty slow. Anybody else having slow internet at home today? Can anybody actually hear me? Am I still here? I can see Noah's waving.
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So there's 2 people awake that can still hear me. Whew, editing is temporarily unavailable. Check your internet connection. All right, take my word for it. This equations in ME1800, it has all the equations that I think you need to use to solve the problems in the group assignment. For all of the Excel pages, I want you to copy the equation. You don't have to copy the equation from my slides. You could Google it and find an equation that somebody has published online, and you could use that equation and you could copy it. You could remember what it is, and you could write on a piece of paper what the equation is that you use to solve the problem. And you could take a picture of that and you could put it in the slide. But on each of the slides, I want to see written out the equation. I'm going to put a link to it in the assignment to Brianna. So I'll link to that file in the assignment. Also, if you just Google ME1800 equations, it'll be the first thing that comes up. Unless somebody else has tried to compete with me for that long tail keyword, which I kind of doubt. We'll go through all of the problems next. So we have this full week and we have part of the week next week, right? Is that the schedule?
Yes.
Okay. So I recommend that before lecture tomorrow, everybody looks at the questions and make sure they understand the questions. And we'll set aside some time during lecture tomorrow to answer any questions you have about the questions. Question 6 here is interesting because find the final diameter of the part as a function of the distance from the chuck. Your solution is actually a graph to do that. So we can talk about question 6 tomorrow in class. All right. So you guys, I'm gonna make this live as soon as I log off here. So I recommend you guys review the questions and see if you don't understand any of the questions. We can talk about that tomorrow in class. We can talk about it Tuesday in class, and maybe Monday I'll put some extra office hours posted where I'll just be on Zoom, and if you guys have questions, you can log in and ask them about that. But let me turn the assignment on. I'll get that to you guys, and feel free to reach out with questions. Anything else right now? I kind of want to give the internet a break. Let it rest. All right, if nobody has any questions right now, I'm going to go ahead and log off and get all this stuff posted to Canvas for you.